Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Thursday, December 23rd. I'm Robert Blaszkiewicz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times, here with Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times, and Times columnist Mark Kiesling. We're here to bring you all the latest news in the world of politics. We're going to start off this week in Porter County, where there was some controversy, some friction between county commissioners and state officials over a bridge over there.
Right, and this is a bridge over troubled
train tracks,
as
yeah.
as it were.
There you go.
The bridge dates back to, well, the idea for the bridge dates back to a really nasty crash on the South Shore, where the way the crossing was designed before, the truck.
There are multiple tracks
Exactly.
there, and basically a truck with two trailers, the rear trailer holding a steel coil, basically got blocked on the South Shore tracks, hanging over the South Shore tracks. South Shore train in the early morning hours came through, hit the rear trailer, steel coil went through the South Shore car, killed 3 people. So
Yeah, it was a really awful one, and so very clearly the problem was a bad design, and so that had to be corrected. So at the time, the idea was, we'll put federal money, we'll put state money, we'll put local money into it, and the upshot of the deal was that Porter County had to maintain the bridge. Now the bridge is aging.
That was an agreement that they entered into at the time of construction, correct?
Right. So now Porter County people are, John Evans in particular, are having second thoughts about it.
Well, the state basically threatened to say, if you don't maintain this bridge, we're going to ask the feds to pull your highway money, to which John Evans said that's blackmail. Is it blackmail, Mark?
Well, everything the government does is blackmail to some extent or another. Look, all you've got to do is look back to the time when we were trying to do gas saving, and we forced the states to go to a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. If those states did not comply, the states did not have to comply with the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. If they didn't, they lost their federal highway money. So everyone was, in a sense, blackmailed into putting up a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. Even states like Montana, where if you go 55 miles an hour, you're going to be in Montana for years. So, or what seems like it.
Yeah. I'm sure it does anyway.
So it looks like the upshot of this is that the county's probably going to have to pony up the money to maintain this bridge, and not a problem right now, but 20, 30 years down the road, it could end up being quite expensive.
Right.
Well, this is the kind of thing that when you enter into a contract like this, that the attorneys like to say it's due diligence, which really it's just lawyer talk for checking out what's going to happen, and apparently either due diligence wasn't done, or if it was, it wasn't a concern at the time. Maybe there was such an outcry at the time that it was just like, well, let's just get this project on the move.
Well, there's more attention to bridges in trouble too, since Klein Avenue in particular. But there was the bridge on Indianapolis Boulevard that had trouble and had to be replaced.
Nine-span bridge.
Yeah, exactly. That was a huge issue. There are other bridges that are in trouble. That the one in Minneapolis.
Well, ever since the Minneapolis collapse of I-35, it seems like the entire nation has been on the lookout for bad bridges. But enough about bridges.
Yeah, let's talk about state politics, where we've had the second prominent candidate, potential candidate in 2 weeks, basically say they're not interested in running for governor. Last week it was Evan Bayh. This week it was Republican Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman.
So we've had one prominent Democrat, Evan Bayh, decide he did not want to run, which has kind of caused his...
And he was really pretty much the front runner.
Yeah, well, he would have been the front runner, and all the other candidates or potential candidates have said that he was the front runner, and now this is going to kind of throw it into
and Becky Skillman was one of two.
And Becky Skillman was one of two, and probably, actually, as lieutenant governor, the lesser of two. We've talked about why Frank O'Bannon, as lieutenant governor, was able to kind of ride the coattails into office. But O'Bannon he actively sought the governorship, and he knew it for 8 years, and was able to be out at ribbon cuttings and baby kissings and highway openings and everything like that, just to get himself in front of the public for 8 years. Everyone knew who Frank O'Bannon was. I've got a feeling a lot of people in Indiana don't know who Becky Skillman is.
Oh, absolutely. The numbers show that. I mean, her polls absolutely showed that. She said she was not running because of health reasons, and I kind of wonder, how much of that is the health of her poll numbers.
Yeah.
And she said it was minor health reasons, so maybe she was just sick of campaigning.
Could
But
be.
the other candidate who would have been considered a front runner, U.S. Representative Mike Pence.
And Pence is a guy who's getting out there. He was all over the country this year campaigning for candidates.
And the question is if he's going to run for president or governor. It's, I think,
Right,
those are the questions.
and I think he's still undecided from what I've heard. I think he seems to be leaning toward the governor's race.
And he's going to be in Lake County early next year.
Right.
I think Pence, should he run for president, is going to have the same problem Skillman had in Indiana. I don't think people in Louisiana have any idea who Mike Pence is, or people in Nevada or Maine. He's well known to a certain constituency, but beyond that, I think with the average grassroots American, he's not going to carry the name recognition of a lot of other people who are going to be running for office in 2012.
Sure.
So if he gets elected governor and he does the job well, then he can show he's got the executive ability. He has another shot at the White House in the future.
It's not saying a U.S. rep can't become president,
Right.
because we have one now who was. But, I mean, the governorship has historically been an excellent springboard to the presidency. Jimmy Carter,
Right.
Ronald Reagan. You can go back and
Bill
look.
Clinton.
Bill
Yeah.
Clinton. You can go back and look at the number of people who just made that transition with ease.
Pence is
George
going.
Bush.
Yeah, Pence is going to be in Congress for the next 2 years, and we just saw this particular session of Congress just finished up his lame duck session, which ended up being surprisingly productive. Some very important legislation that the Obama administration backed ended up getting pushed through despite Republican opposition. The repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was one of them, and the other was the START Treaty, something that was near and dear to the heart of Indiana Senator Richard Lugar.
A Republican who was backing the Obama-backed bill. But there are very few people in the House or Senate who carry the foreign policy weight and respect that Dick Lugar does.
In fact,
On either side of the aisle.
President Obama said in his remarks on the START Treaty, said that on his first trip, his first foreign trip as a senator, that Dick Lugar went along with him to show him, the problem of nukes and so forth. I mean, Lugar took Obama under his wing for foreign policy. So
Well, Obama kind of took Sam Nunn's place on the Democratic side in partnering with
Right.
Lugar on an anti-nuclear proliferation. So yeah,
and that's very clearly dear to Lugar's heart.
sure.
I don't think it was as much of a partisan issue as some other things you could have out there. I think basically Republican opposition just came as a result of we're just going to be opposed to whatever Obama's in favor of.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
And that's not going to work.
It's not going to go away in the next
not gonna
session.
go away.
It's
not.
we're going to see continued butting heads between Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
In Chicago, on the other hand, Republicans they're not so much of a factor. It's all the action is on the Democratic side when we're talking about the mayoral race, which is fast approaching. There were some significant developments this week with the election board basically saying that Rahm Emanuel, who is the presumed front runner on the Democratic side, that his name can appear on the ballot despite some residency challenges.
The residency challenges basically said that he had moved his residence to Washington to be President Obama's chief of staff. What the Election Commission said was, no, this was a temporary move where he was serving his country, and that he never intended to move his residency out of the city of Chicago, where he had been a U.S. representative.
Anybody who has served in the military or had a brother or nephew or aunt or anybody who's known somebody who served in the military knows that they vote not necessarily where they currently reside.
True,
I mean,
and you look at, it's like we said before, you have if you're in the Marine Corps and you're serving at 29 Palms in California, but you're from Chicago, you vote in Illinois, you vote as though you were an Illinois citizen.
Right. Exactly. It's well, other than the guns and whatnot, it's no different. I mean, it's serving
you have
serving
more
Uncle
guns at
Sam.
29 bombs.
Exactly.
Catch.
Exactly.
So it's going to only 2 months away, less than 2 months away from
Less
the
than 2 months away
primaries.
from the primary should be exciting.
Yeah.
It will.
I think you're correct, Robert. I think Emmanuel right now is the guy to beat. I think James Meeks, the Reverend James Meeks, stepped on his own foot by talking about minorities being only being blacks, not women, not Latinos, not anything else other than not Asians, but just blacks. And where that becomes important is when your mayor goes to look at the set-aside programs, because there are certain programs in the city where X amount of the dollars have to go to a minority contractor. Now, if he says, a female-owned firm or an Asian-owned firm comes up and says, "We'd like to bid on this," where's that going to end up?
Yeah. So the question is, was this a stumble uninspired, or did he just step on a landmine he planted by accident?
My guess is he said what he thought without thinking about what he was saying, and he has since backpedaled and tried to do damage control. But I think this is not going to be easily forgotten in the Latino community. It's not going to be easily forgotten by the female voters, and it's not going to be easily forgotten in the Asian community. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, okay, when the rubber hits the road, it comes time for those set-aside programs to be dished out. Where is he going to come down? And it wouldn't be as significant a problem for him. But you've got other credible black candidates. You've got U.S. Rep. Danny Davis, former Senator Carol Mosley Braun, people that did not just wander in off the street corner and say, "I want to be mayor of Chicago." People who have proven vote getters and political powerhouses.
Sure. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, along with all the other political developments. We'll be back next week for a New Year's edition. But in the meantime, we want to wish you and your family and loved ones the merriest of Christmas, and just to thank you for watching us.
Merry Christmas, Robert.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to all of you.
Thank you.